Those were the key headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. You're watching CNBC TV18 and this is Reporter's Diary. As always, we'll go straight on to all the market action where benchmark indices hit record highs in trade today. The Sensex closed at 39,300 while the Nifty hit 11,800 for the first time after crossing an earlier record high of 11,761. As for the broader markets, Nifty Bank ended 100 points away from its record highs. However, mid-caps failed to participate in the rally and ended the day flat. Surbhi Upadhyay is with us now with a wrap of today's action on Dalal Street. Surbhi, over to you.
Bulls remain in absolute control of this market and the writing's on the wall. The money is coming in and we had fresh all-time highs on the Sensex and on the Nifty today. The Nifty managed to scale the 11,800 level. In fact, the highest level of the day was 11,810 and it ended just 20 points shy of that. And that's the important takeaway, that despite this midweek holiday that's coming up tomorrow, there were no jitters, no nerves, and we've ended practically at the highs of the day. The Sensex as well, just to quote levels, 39,364 is the new all-time high. What was the problem with today's trade? Only one caveat, that mid-caps chose to sit out of the party. The advance decline ratio was pretty narrow. The mid-cap index was flat to mildly negative through the course of the day. So the buying right now is restricted to large caps, and that can be perhaps explained with the nature of money that's coming in. These are FPI flows that we are talking about, and the rush is really heady. So far in April, just half the month gone by, and so far we have already seen, I'll quote the exact number, about 13,900 crore rupees of FPI money come through. Compare this with the near 34,000 that came in March. So you can see that, we're pretty much on track. That momentum is still intact. What's driving the momentum? Right now, no worries about the monsoon forecast. The hope of a pretty decent earnings season with banks expected to do really well. Reliance is a big number that we will come back to on Thursday. And of course, optimism ahead of general elections and hopes of a stable government. You can ascribe whatever reasons. The fact is that money is chasing stocks and prices are shooting higher.
Surbhi, thanks very much for joining in with that. Now, the cash crunch at Jet Airways and lenders' reluctance to infuse funds may see the airline heading for a crash landing. We learned from sources that the airline's board has now advised the management to make one final effort to engage with lenders on interim funding before they take the final call on halting all domestic and international operations. Remember, the international operations have already been halted until the 18th of April, and now we're given to understand that Jet Airways CEO Vinay Dubey, who has been authorized by the board to take this call, has written to SBI seeking 400 crore rupees as interim financing to sustain operations. While the response from lenders is still awaited, we are given to understand separately that two bidders have already backed out of the race to acquire Jet Airways. We're given to understand that the Naresh Goyal-led consortium has now withdrawn its offer to bid for Jet Airways after some of the other potential bidders had protested against him participating in the process and had threatened to even walk out altogether if Naresh Goyal was allowed to bid. Further, we're given to understand that Redcliffe Capital and Think Equity, which is another consortium that had placed an EOI with the lenders, has also now withdrawn its bid, stating that it does not see viability of operations with the kind of debt that Jet Airways is now sitting on. So that leaves NIIF, TPG, Indigo Partners, in the running still to see if at all now lenders have to shortlist from the qualified bidders and then invite bids. In fact, we're given to understand that that shortlist process should be completed today, and the State Bank of India-led consortium is expected to announce the name of all of these shortlisted candidates. Now, meanwhile, the airline could be headed towards temporary grounding if of course, no funds are given by the lenders. We'll go across to Anu now to find out the current status as far as operations are concerned. Anu, the DGCA, we learn, has advised the airlines to keep airfares as low as possible. What else can you tell us?
So in a press note issued just a short while back, DGCA has said that it met airline representatives today, and it has advised airlines to monitor airfares and keep the airfares as low as possible. The airlines have told DGCA that they have removed certain higher fare buckets, and DGCA says that it will continue to monitor the fare movement on a daily basis as the current situation of Jet Airways is leading to a lot of flight cancellations and disruption. A lot of capacity reduction has taken place in the market. So that is why the DGCA has issued this note. With regard to the other operational matters of Jet Airways, we are given to understand that the Civil Aviation Secretary is expected to hold meetings with various departments with regard to the situation of Jet Airways, and we are likely to hear an official word from the Civil Aviation Ministry later in the day regarding Jet Airways. Other than that, we're given to understand that the management of Jet Airways has requested the lenders to issue a substantial amount of funds, as funds being issued in a truncated fashion will not be able to pay the pending dues to employees, and those dues which are paid in a handful amount will only be able to cater to the lease rentals, the oil payments, etc. So the airline has requested that we need a substantial amount of funds, and otherwise, in absence of that, as the airline suspended the international operations temporarily a few days back, and yesterday it got extended till Thursday. So in the same way, if there is no availability of funds, then the current domestic operations, which are using 6 ATRs and 1 Boeing 737, even those operations will become unsustainable if the funds don't come in. The management has also sent letters with regard to the current state of operations to the Prime Minister's office, the Aviation Ministry and the Finance Ministry. So we now await some kind of outcome of all these meetings which are taking place across Delhi and Bombay. Back to you.
Oh, absolutely, Anu. Thanks very much for joining. We are still awaiting the outcome of many of these pieces that are still to be put together to solve that bigger puzzle. But joining us now to take this forward is Satyendra Pandey, aviation expert. Mr. Pandey, thank you very much for patiently waiting on and joining us now. You've heard what our reporters have told us now. The CEO has written to the bank seeking 400 crores to even be able to sustain operations. What do you make of this, what you've heard so far in this case?
Well, the CEO has done the right thing, absolutely, because drip feeding or giving the funding in a truncated manner is not going to help the airline. This is an airline that has seen a 94% reduction in fleet. I mean, it's flying only 7 airplanes, and even if they were to fly completely full, that's not enough cash flow to sustain operations going forward. So if Jet needs to be saved, a significant amount of equity infusion is needed. And my estimate is that 400 crores at this time is far too little, but still it would be a start.
All right, Mr. Pandey, but going forward, the kind of interest that we've seen for Jet Airways so far, largely from private equity players, only Etihad is the one strategic player that has come forward. What kind of turnaround could we even be looking at? I mean, a stopgap solution with some private equity players pitching in now?
No, for any private equity player to come in, the debt capacity of Jet Airways is limited. So any private equity player is essentially looking at a large equity infusion. Then they're looking at revisiting, all of the financials of Jet Airways. If you throw in the assumption of debt, you're looking at a $1.5 to $2 billion turnaround. And keep in mind, as this has happened, lessors have already re-registered the airplanes. There has been a gradual shrinking of the airline from 119 to 70, then to 50, then to 40, then to the current 7 airplanes. Several pilots have left, several payables are rising. So the figure that was floating around of 8,000 crores as debt, I would venture out to say that would have reached at least close to 10,000 crores. So you're looking at a fairly challenging turnaround situation. And for any private equity player to come in, they essentially have a 7 to 8 year vintage. It means they need 8 years to exit the investment on a valuation multiple. And at this point of time, the valuation multiple is just not happening because the valuation drivers, such as the fleet, the pilots, the slots, the bilaterals, the agreements, gradually they're fading away. So it's a very challenging situation indeed.
So, Mr. Pandey, are you implying banks would also have to take a large haircut, now that operations are likely to be suspended? If the airline is not running, the kind of bids that they will receive would also be depressed?
So the banks are faced with an interesting dilemma, because if they extend credit to Jet, they're not able to collateralize it because all of the assets essentially have been collateralized. Based on cash flows, again, 7 airplanes do not generate the kinds of cash flows that a bank would look at in terms of EBITDA multiple to cover their debt. So if banks were to extend credit, they would be extending it purely on the basis of good faith, unless there's some kind of guarantee. You've already seen the promoter pledge shares, which is a fairly extreme scenario. So at this point, the banks, they would, if they were to go ahead and extend credit, it would largely be unsecured credit, and they would be extending it in the hopes that the loans that have already been extended do not go bad. Against all of this, news hit just 1 hour ago that the Exim Bank from the United States has called in their loans of 2,000 crores, which is essentially 10 airplanes. So gradually and increasingly every day, you're seeing folks lose confidence in the ability of the airline to continue as it is. Drastic measures are needed, and it's only through drastic measures that the airline would be able to look at a turnaround situation.
All right, Mr. Pandey, thank you very much for bringing us that perspective and joining us here on CNBC TV18. Now, moving on in the earnings space, Wipro has managed to meet street expectations with its fourth quarter performance, but its guidance for the next quarter is disappointing. Reema Tendulkar joins us now with more details on this. Reema, take us through the key takeaways from the numbers that Wipro just released.
The top 3 takeaways from Wipro: 1, Q4 largely in line with expectations. The next quarter's guidance is muted. And third, the buyback has been announced. So on Q4, it's a constant currency revenue growth of 1%, so within the company's guided band of 0 to 1%, slightly lower than what the street was anticipating. But on the margin front, they've delivered 19% EBIT margins, higher than what the street was anticipating. The Q1 FY20 guidance is disappointing at -1 to +1%. Street expectations were for a 0 to 2% growth, and it continues to show that the June quarter is going to be a seasonally weak quarter for the company. They've also announced a buyback. It's a 10,500 crore buyback at a price of 325 rupees per share, which is a 16% premium to where the stock closed yesterday. From the management commentary, we await clarity on BFSI and that growth can continue. And with respect to the cybersecurity attack on a few of their accounts, will be tracked closely.
All right, Reema, thanks very much for bringing us the details of settled on the campaign trails for the second phase of the Lok Sabha elections. Voters in 97 constituencies across 13 states and union territories will decide the fate of 1,644 candidates in this phase of Lok Sabha elections. Tamil Nadu is going to be the most crucial battleground in this phase, with voting across 39 Lok Sabha seats. In Karnataka, 14 Lok Sabha constituencies will vote in the second phase, and third big chunk will come from Maharashtra, with voting across 10 seats. A quick look then at some of the other election headlines. The battle for Kerala has intensified, with Congress President Rahul Gandhi and BJP President Amit Shah sounding the poll bugle in the state. Rahul Gandhi has said he is contesting from Wayanad to send out a message that the southern states are an integral part of India.
India is not just one perspective. India is just not one idea. India is millions and millions of different viewpoints, different perspectives, and all of those are important to us. Currently, our country is under attack by the BJP and the RSS. They want to suppress all other voices other than their own. They believe that only one idea should rule India. And we believe that the Indian people should rule India.
Home Minister Rajnath Singh has filed his nomination papers in Lucknow for the Lok Sabha polls. Rajnath Singh will face Shatrughan Sinha's wife, Poonam Sinha. The SP-BSP alliance has announced her candidature from the seat. Remember, the BJP has never lost this constituency since 1991. Beed is one of the key Lok Sabha constituencies in Maharashtra. This seat is currently being represented by BJP's Preetam Munde, and she is facing NCP's Bajrang Sonawane in these elections. Archana Shukla travelled across the constituency to look at the big electoral issues here, and she found out that healthcare is not getting the attention it should in the discourse around elections.
अभी तक ये साल में कुछ काम नहीं मिला।
ये सेशन की है ना, वो काम अभी तो 2-4 साल से काम नहीं हमारे का।
2-4 साल से रोजगार हामी के काम नहीं मिल रहे। In villages like Bedarwadi in Beed district, you only meet older people and some women who have not gone out to work. 90% of the working class from these villages, and almost every family has people who have migrated outside the villages to Western Maharashtra or Karnataka to work in sugarcane fields, because work is not available in their village or even in the vicinity of 5 to 10, 20 kilometers of their village. Migration is the biggest impact of drought in these regions. Farms have dried up, lands have dried up, agriculture is not sustainable, it's not happening, and local jobs are not available, and hence these families migrate to other parts of the country to seek jobs. They work there for 6 months and come back with their earnings. But they don't come back only with what they have earned. They come back with serious health problems.
28-year-old Meena Kakkad, a daily farm labourer, has been confined to household chores. 2 years of working at sugarcane fields in Satara as a migrant labourer, she developed spinal slip disc, and since then she has not been able to work.
उसमें आपका कितना खर्चा हो गया है? 50,000 का खर्चा हो गया आपकी तकलीफ में। कैसे किए आप? वो पैसे कहाँ से लाए?
वो चलो चले मालकानी
वही काम करके
गन्ना काटने के लिए वो चलो।
Desperation to earn a living forced her to even work in the fields while she was pregnant with her second child, and this led to acute malnourishment.
ये श्रावण महीने में गए हम, 1 महीना उसका काबिल उधलती।
उससे इसको फायदा हुआ? हाँ? इसका हाइट
बढ़ गई, वजन बढ़ गया।
Restrictions on movement has meant Meena cannot work on the fields, and her husband is the sole earner for a family of 7. Meena is not the only one. Spinal cord injuries, which sometimes results in paralysis, is a common ailment that migrant labourers from Beed encounter while at work.
ऊस तोडायचं दूध पण काय 6,000 झालाय ती मनकेचा ऊस तोडता
ऊस तोडते आपके कमर में तकलीफ हुई है?
त्याच्यामुळे आता काय इथंच बसूनच।
जब वो गन्ना काटने के लिए चले जाते हैं तो वहाँ पे गन्ना काटे वाला गन्ना जब एक बार बांधा जाता है, बांधने के बाद वो सर पे उठा के वो गाड़ी में भरना पड़ता है। लोड करते टाइम पे एक बार नहीं तो कई बार करना पड़ता है। तो उससे वो जो हार्ड वर्क करने की वजह से, और वहाँ पे प्रॉपर उनको आहार नहीं मिलता है। उसके बाद कभी कभी सुबह उठ के चले जाना पड़ता है, 4-4 बजे सुबह उठ के वो चले जाते हैं वो गन्ना काटने का। वो हार्ड वर्क करने की वजह से जब वो इधर आते हैं तो सबसे ज्यादा यहाँ पे महिलाओं का प्रॉब्लम ज्यादातर देखा जाता है।
आपको तकलीफ हुआ कमर का, उसके इलाज के लिए पैसे कहाँ से लाए आपने?
गन्ना काटता है तो पैसे खर्च करता है ना
इलाज के लिए।
काय खेती में तो पैसा कहीं होता नहीं।
सरकारी क्यों नहीं? सरकारी अस्पताल में क्यों नहीं? वहाँ पर भी तो डॉक्टर होते होंगे।
सरकारी करते नहीं, वो लोग ध्यान नहीं देता ज़्यादा, इसलिए प्राइवेट में जाते हैं लोग।
1-1.5 लाख रुपए खर्च झाला है ना।
1-1.5 लाख रुपए खर्च हुआ है? प्राइवेट में इलाज कराया? उसके पैसे कहाँ से आए? कैसे जमा किए उसके लिए पैसे
का आतापर्यंत ऊस तोडलेला होता ते घातले सगळेच।
Unfortunately, migration and poor healthcare support are never poll issues.
All right, with that, we'll wrap up this edition of Reporter's Diary. Thank you for watching, but do stay tuned to CNBC-TV18.